All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting for Monday, November the 17th. Please note that the meeting is going to be recorded for public viewing, and with that, I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda. So moved by Councillor Colwell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Blinas. All in favor?
Aye.
Reminded, motion carried. With that, I'll remind everyone there's a conflict of interest declaration form in the cabinet. If you have any conflicts for tonight's meeting, please pass it to the clerk, stating the reason. With that, we're going to move on to item number 4, adoption of minutes, item 4.1, special council meeting from October the 6th, 2025. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes? So moved by Councillor Glant, seconded by Councillor Thorne. Questions to the motion? Seeing no questions, all in favor? Aye. Reminded, motion carried. Moving on to 4.2, regular council meeting from October the 14th, 2025. Do I have a motion to accept minutes? So moved by Councillor Colwell, seconded by Councillor Thorne. Questions to the motion? Seeing no questions, all in favor? Aye. Reminded, motion carried. Moving on to item 4.3, committee of the whole meeting from October the 27th, 2025. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes? So moved by Deputy Mayor Blinas and seconded by Councillor Bannister. Questions to the motion? Seeing no questions, all in favor? Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Moving on to item number 5, consent agenda items. You would have all received that in your packages. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? Moved by Councillor Thorne, seconded by Councillor Bannister. Questions to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Okay, moving on to item 6, public and administrative presentations. And I'm going to ask Edmund to come to the podium, and Edmund's from Fort Poly Habitat Recovery, and we've had the honor, I think this might be the first time this council has had the honor of having Edmund here. But I had the pleasure in previous years, maybe even 6 or 7 years ago, to have you here, Edmund, and really thrilled to have you back.
Thank you. All right, so my name is Edmund Redfield, and I work for Fort Poly Habitat Recovery, and I'm going to be talking to you about today is the monitoring that we've been doing down in Highland Park, looking at the return of an anadromous fish species to the Petitgonia. We've actually been here in Salisbury since 2010, but we moved up to Highland Park in 2018. So you go ahead and go on to the next one. Next. So this is a quick overview. Petitgonia Causeway first closed off the river in 1968. The gates were then opened in 2010 and then replaced by the new bridge in 2021. We've been monitoring since those gates were opened in 2010. Go on to the next one. In terms of the effects of the causeway, below the gates, the river channel narrowed by about 92% from 1 kilometer down to about 80 meters. Can we get that down? It's going to cover some of my text, but yeah. And there was channel infilling for about 21 kilometers downstream. So that the top picture is a before, and then the 1996 one is after. You can see a pretty dramatic difference. Okay, go on to the next one. In addition to the channel infilling, you had a reduction of the tidal bore. Before the causeway, tidal bore ranged from about 1 to 1.5 meters, and after the causeway was in it, went down to a fraction of a meter. Okay, next one. And in terms of fish in the river, you had several species that were extirpated. It's Atlantic salmon, American shad, striped bass, and Atlantic tomcod. There were also declines in Gaspereau. By this, I'm talking about both alewife and blueback herring, though these showed some signs of recovery by the late 1990s. American eels were capable of getting past the causeway and were thought to have actually benefited as there was a productive overfishery in the head pond. And in fact, there was concern expressed during the EA for the proposal. The proposed changes might actually have a negative impact on eels, but recovery of other species was deemed to be a priority. Yeah, since 2010, when the gates were opened, for 10 kilometers downstream, the river is widened by in excess of 350 meters, and the tidal bore is strengthened such that it now attracts surfers. In fact, that picture there is from 2013. A world record was set going from, I forget exactly where it started. We went all the way up, just started and stopped just short of the causeway. Now, if the bridge was open, it's a world record that could be waiting to fall because you could put another 20 kilometers on that record without any problem. So it's probably just a matter of time until somebody does that. Okay, next one. In 2021, the new bridge was completed and you had a 160-meter wide channel that came in under the bridge, which replaced the 50 meters of passage that was through the causeway control structure. That had 5 gates, each of which only let 10 meters passage through. So it's quite a big change. Okay, the next one. In fact, we can use Google Earth imagery to look back in time. If you look at the Chateau Moncton, the distance between 2004 going across to the opposite bank was 111 meters, and by 2025 it had opened up to 225 meters, which is, I mean, it's obviously doubled. That's quite an impressive difference. In fact, if we go on to the next slide, we can actually see what that looks like. And as you can imagine, there's quite a bit of material there that is now gone. Only it's not gone. It's been moved around by the river. In fact, it sloshes back and forth with the tide, so it gets redistributed regularly. And we'll touch more on that later. You want the next one?
Does that mean that the river's actually become more shallow?
Depends where you're talking about. There are places where you could argue that that's happened. Yep. The increasing tidal bore has translated into a much stronger tidal amplitude here in Salisbury. There's a gauge actually on the railway bridge just below the mouth of Little River. And that's tracking there. I've got the strongest tide recorded is the top line, and then the bottom line is the average amplitude that we're seeing. So you can see the strength of tides has increased dramatically over time, though the average tides are a little harder to explain. I can show you a bit more with that when we get into some later diagrams. Next one. This is what it looks like. It's September 30th this year at the 112 bridge here in Salisbury. You've got this silt being redistributed upstream. In fact, you've got silt flats underneath the bridge here, and you can see they're quite significant. First time we really saw it to this extent was in 2022. And at the time, I was assuming that was going to be the new normal here. And of course, as soon as I tried to predict things, it didn't work out. We had all that rain, storm flow was flecking the silt back downstream, and we didn't see any silt at all. But it was back quite significantly, both last year in 2024 and then this year in 2025. Look at the next one. This is this year's tide, just the strengths and weaknesses of it as it was going along, as compared to 2010. As you can see, it's quite a bit bigger, the tides now compared to when the gates were first opened. But you can also see how the lowest it goes down has dropped quite a bit as the season progresses. And that's the silt arriving. It's reducing the amplitude. So even though the peaks are still up there, it's filled in quite a bit with silt going along. Okay, next one. In fact, this is at Highland Park last September. And you can see there's just a massive amount of silt that came through the tides. Then that's actually the most silt that I've seen in Highland Park in the time that we've been here. Last year, it was probably because we had 4 supermoons, so the tides were really, really strong last year, and that was what made that happen. This year, we didn't have quite this much silt, but it was because we had that big drought over the summer, so there was no storm flow fletching the silt back down. Okay, go on to the next one. So all that about the silt, but what about the fish? So a few weeks after the gates were opened in 2010, the trap was first set up about 20 kilometers upstream of the causeway here in Salisbury. And that was DTI sponsoring that monitoring. Was done from 2010 to 2024. But there, after the 15 years, they were done sponsoring that, which was more than fair. They had only an obligation coming out of the environmental assessment to do 4 years of monitoring, 2 years after the gates were opened and 2 years after the bridge was completed. So having given us 15 years, it's hard to complain. We applied for some funding for this year, but we didn't actually get it. We had an application into DFO, but we had some resources and we were able to do a short season this fall. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those. Going to the next one here. Our last full season was 2024. That year, the picket trap was first set in May 15th, and it operated until September 19th. We got shut down by the silt, and that was unplanned. We had hoped to operate that gear for the full season, but it became unrealistic. The purpose of that large structure, you may have seen it in Highland Park. I don't know if you've had an opportunity down there sitting. We've had it there for several years. But the purpose of that big net is to accommodate the thousands of Gaspareaux we can catch on a single tide during their spawning run. I had in Highland Park almost 5,000 Gaspareaux in a single day. So you need a big net that can accommodate that kind of, this kind of fish. Go on to the next one. This is what it looks like when it comes in and floods the trap. There you can see it at base flow on October 3rd in 2023. And then the river came up about a meter, and you can see it's filled up quite nicely. In fact, you get this glassy effect with the flood, because that's actually backed up freshwater discharge coming down that's flooded it in that particular picture there. Okay, go on to the next one. So in October of 2024, what we did is we switched to fight nets, and we operated those for the entire month of October. And we did the same thing this year in 2025 with the fight nets. And these are smaller nets that can be put in and taken out rather rapidly as conditions allow. These were put in about 300 meters upstream of the picket trap, and we had to do that in 2024 because of the silt. And we had the same conditions this year, so we went ahead and did the same thing. Our purpose for putting them in the fall was targeting returning salmon, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the summaries. You can go on to the next one. Okay, so we've got here the picket trap, just showing you where it is if you weren't familiar with it. It was picket trap site was just near the wetland in the park, and then the fight nets are just a bit further upstream. And that's because the silt gets less severe the further upstream you go. So going that far made it more workable. We're proposing to do the same in 2026. Basically, we would like to fish the picket trap for approximately May 25th to July 3rd, and then pause, and then fish the fight nets from middle of September to the end of October. Because I'm assuming that the silt is going to be just as bad next year as it is. There's no reason to think that it's going to get any less bad over time. Go on to the next one. So this is just a quick summary of our last full season, which was 2024. We had 19 adult salmon that we caught. It was all during the fall, and those were all recently released fish. And I've got them sort of broken into groups here. You can see the trend is a group of fish that there isn't much change happening year to year. Then I've got a group for the fish that are increasing, and then an invasive group where there's not much change. So with the rainbow smelt, we didn't really see any in the trap, and that's pretty normal. Basically, their spawning run happens in April, which is before we put the trap in. So we get the occasional odd one, but that's just random. So seeing no rainbow smelt in 2024 wasn't unusual. The same for shad. They tend to avoid disturbance like the new channels, and so they're not that numerous. None of those were a surprise. Striped bass, you can see they're part of trending upwards group. We had 448 last year, which was more than all the years combined since the new channel has been opened up under the bridge. It was quite an impressive year for striped bass. And we had only 16 American eel, but I still describe that as part of an upwards trend because we were doing electrofishing elsewhere in the river that was telling us quite a bit about the American eel population. And it is up compared to where it had been before the gates were open. So we can kind of set to the side the concern that the American eels wouldn't benefit from the causeway being open. It actually was good for them as well. Now, Gaspereau, you see the numbers are actually trending downwards. We've had notably fewer since the first years after the gates were opened. And I can go into that, but that's a fairly long story that I'm not sure I want to give you right now. But certainly anyone who has questions about that, I would be happy to tell you more about that. In terms of the invasives, we haven't had any of the smallmouth bass or chain pickerel since 2018, but we have had some goldfish as recently as 2023. But we haven't seen any for a couple of years anyway. We can just go on to the next one. It just quickly looks at what we did see this fall with our fight nets. We had 11 adults. They were once again all recently released fish. This is the same story for the rainbow smelt and American shad. I think to be expected differently there. Striped bass, we had 63 in just 1 month, which is almost as many as we were getting in some of the full seasons before the bridge was completed. So I still consider that as part of the upward trend. For the rest of them, I've just got question marks. Our funding for electrofishing ended in 2024 as well, so we don't really know what's happening with American eel. Gaspereau, we did get some young of the year. That's what the YOY stands for, coming downstream in the fall, but not that many. Basically, it's the spawning run when we get the large numbers of Gasparilla, and that would be in the spring, so we weren't really sampling that. And we didn't see any invasives during that month, so that was pretty good. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. All right, this is actually looking a bit more closely at what we got. This is an Atlantic salmon we got this year, one of our 11. It's a 70 centimeter long fish. It's a multi-seaweeder fish that was initially caught as a smolt in 2022 up on the Pollock River. And then it was taken to Grand Manan, where we raised it out as part of the Fundy Salmon Recovery Sea Cage program to adult size. And then it was brought back and released this year, just a few weeks previously on the Pollock River. And then we were captured in the fight nets on October 14th. Now, seeing a fish like that is exciting because it proves to me that my nets are working. So if there had been a returning fish, we'd have picked it up. But catching it a week or two after it's been put in the river isn't that meaningful aside from that. But it serves as a good control group to let us know that if there are other fish, the traps are functioning. Great, go on to the next one. This is what was really exciting in 2021. We had an actual wild return. It was an adult salmon that we captured at Highland Park, October 4th. It had no tag. And we took scale and tissue samples and sent it to UNB for analysis, and they confirmed it was a wild return. We can go on to the next one. It stood out at the time as being uncommonly pristine and slender in terms of its form. It had no wounds from prior sampling or shed floyd tags or tip tags. It was an obviously different looking fish at the time, which is also why we were suspicious that it might be something interesting when we took the sample. We go on to the next one. At UNB, they did stable isotope analysis on it and confirmed it as a wild return. What they basically were doing was analyzing it to see what it was made of, because that tells you what it was eating. And they could tell that it was not on Fundy Salmon Recovery feed because those skew up high and to the right. It wasn't on aquaculture feed because those skew low and down to the right. And it wasn't on the diet fed by DFO because those are the black ones. There. Instead, it was most consistent with just fish eating a natural diet, the wild population of the variety of Fundy Atlantic salmon. So that was quite exciting. We can go on to the next one. So what it told us, it's a 2021 fish that was a 2-seaweeder fish. Looking at the scale is how we aged it, which means that it was at sea December of 2019 and December of 2020, which tells you that it was a smolt in June of 2019. Now, since it had bypassed the Little River, it likely came off of the Pollock, and our monitoring on the Pollock in 2019 suggested that we had to run about 5,465 smolt that year, so it would have been one of those. Being a 2-year-old smolt, it tells us that it was a fry in June of 2017. So genetic analysis done on it showed that the parents were not in the live gene bank database, which was a little disappointing because then we would have known its total biographical history. But at the same time, it does let us guess that it probably was not an unfed fry, since all of those are fish that there is no parentage from DFO's Live Gene Bank project. So it means that it probably is offspring of one of the adult releases, or two of the adult releases, I suppose, in 2016. The fact that none of those were genotyped, neither of its parents were genotyped isn't that unusual because a lot of the fish at that time weren't being genotyped by DFO. They were fish that they didn't need for their program, which is why they were giving them to us, put in the river, and they weren't investing that much in. So that's probably what it is. Now they say they can do further analysis on it and try and figure out who its grandparents were, but it took them years to get that information to me, so I'm not going to hold my breath. I was just grateful that someone at DFO managed to hear my questions and get back to me with the fact that they didn't find anything in their records. Because for years I had been putting, so I sent you that sample. I know you ran it because you ran it as part of another group. And someone tracked down from you, you remember the scene from the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark where they went into the government warehouse and it just disappears. That was how this felt.
On the shelf somewhere.
Yeah, that's how this felt for years, but someone managed to dig it out from. One of the next one. Other observations we had at Highland Park. In 2023, we caught a lot of precocious par. This is an individual here that we caught along with another par in the company of an adult on October 16th that year. Go to the next one. We had 9 precocious par that year. And then we also had 2 par that were caught early in the spring, but those weren't actually part of the spawning. So all of these precocious par in the fall were large for par. They'd be respectable smolt at that kind of size. And it stands out because we really hadn't seen that many par at the river at any time before. Go on to the next one. 7 of the 9 par were caught before the first fundy salmon recovery adult releases even happened. And this suggests that they were precocious and looking for adults, perhaps due to a movement of returning adults. In fact, one of them expressed milk when tested. And we have a tag reader array set up on the Pollock River, and prior to that point on October 11th, they had already picked up 10 tagged adults that were in the river. Those were fish that we had released like the year before. They'd gone out to sea and they were returning on their own. So we knew there were adults in the river, even though I wasn't catching them in my trap. In 2023, you might remember with all the rain, there was a lot of gaps in my data that year. And then we had those final 2 par that were caught, the adult female October 16th. Now, this was a really important development because precocious par indicate that juvenile salmon population in the river is actually responding to the inputs of adults, as a population should. Previously, kind of what you had happening was that we were putting adults into what was effectively an empty river. The importance of precocious par is that they help ensure that as many eggs as possible get fertilized. Otherwise, you've got females returning with eggs, and some of those eggs may just go to waste. Because what they do is you get the male and the female who are spawning on the red, and then the precocious par are just trying to get in and fertilize any eggs that the male is missing. So it's actually a really important response happening in the river, and it's very encouraging to see. Down the next one. Another interesting observation we had was we actually caught an aquaculture escapee in Highland Park. And as you can see, if you compare it to the wild return we had, this one looks quite beat up. Go on to the next slide.
Competition.
Yeah, it's there's quite a bit of erosion of the fins, and it's got these weird scars on the sides of it. And the issue there is they're going to compete with the native fish for mates. And that'll affect the genetics of the population. So it's undesirable to have the aquaculture escapees getting into the river, but at the same time, it's nice to know if that's happening.
Darwinism will solve quite a bit of that.
I'm sorry?
Darwinism will solve quite a bit of that.
Yeah. You get that. That's actually part of the entire point with the whole release of adults so that they spawn, so that you're getting the juveniles, and then you take those out. Is you want to have that natural selection to help you get the most fish. Otherwise, you're just dealing with hatchery fish. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So with the adults we're putting in the river, it's not really adults that we're putting into the river, it's bags of eggs and sperm, and getting them to do their thing and produce the next generation that way. Go on to the next one. Okay, next I'm going to talk a little bit about the striped bass we've had at the trap. And they were formerly considered excluded by the causeway. This is one of the largest we've caught. And we got this one in 2024, it's over 60 centimeters. To give you an idea, in order to be legal to keep it, if you were angling, it got to be 68 centimeters. I've never actually caught one big enough to keep by angling that way. Go on to the next one. And his 60 centimeters is quite small compared to the fish that you've seen down in the estuary near Dorchester. They're over a meter in size. And the largest fish we're getting are being drawn into the trap in June, feeding on Gasparilla while they're spawning. That tends to be when and why we see them. But the low numbers of Gasparilla that we're seeing these days probably have a bit to do with why we're seeing so few of these big striped bass. Next one. Okay, so here I've got figures from at Highland Park between 2018 and 2025. And as you can see, during 2021, after the channel was opened under the new bridge, we caught nearly as many striped bass as we had in the previous 3 years combined when before the channel was opened under the bridge. And we had a pretty similar result in 2022 when we got 155 captured. So we had a fairly clear difference in the 3 years before the gates were, before the channel was opened under the bridge compared to the first 2 years after it. You can go on to the next one. Now, in 2023, I mentioned earlier that there were a lot of gaps in the data. We have only 27 striped bass that year because of the gaps in that data. That tells us a bit more about the swarm events that year than it does about the numbers of striped bass. Especially if you look at 2024, where we had over 400 that year. It exceeded all the previous new channel years combined. And then this year, you can see the 63 that we had in just October, which matched or exceeded the entire seasons before the channel was opened over the bridge. So that's why I'm pretty comfortable saying that striped bass numbers are up even based on just 1 month's data. Okay, any questions?
Big Ron. Yeah.
I had one.
Wow.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
You're talking about the spawning in the river. Is that just the fish, like the salmon you're releasing, that will come back to spawn? Or is there ones that are wild out in the Bay of Fundy that will
There's
come back?
only about 200, the DFO estimates the population of wild Atlantic salmon, interbay Fundy Atlantic salmon to be only about 200 fish. And that's
Also-
distributed amongst 50 interbay Fundy rivers. So there aren't that many out there. The only ones we really expect to see come back are ours, though we did have that one wild return, which was really quite exciting.
But that wild return was still spawned in,
That
Paul
wild
River.
return would have been spawned in the Paul River in all likelihood.
so would they come naturally themselves with the causeway open? Or is it just the ones that returned that were born in the river?
Well, the simple answer is that there basically was no population of salmon left in the
Exactly,
river,
yeah.
other than stocking.
Yeah.
And so any fish that you see coming up are likely, even though I can't say what the parentage of that one
Yeah,
was,
fair enough.
any fish that you see in the river probably are
Return.
descended from fish that have been put in as part of
Yeah.
the stocking efforts that
Okay.
have been doing. Now, the other possibility, I didn't really go into there, is that, okay, we don't have any record of its parentage. Maybe you do have maybe it did have 2 wild parents. That seems like a less likely explanation.
Buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, exactly. And that it's, at least one of the parents, probably both the parents, are ones that put in the.
No, excellent.
Did you notice a difference in the numbers based on temperature of the water?
Oh, absolutely. Like I only see salmon, basically in May and June, and then in October. Same thing with brook trout. They're
Right.
also a full water issue. You'll see them in May and June, and then in October. In fact, I talked about, our plan is to have to pause, July, August, and a chunk of September. It's because when the water's warm, there isn't a lot moving then. We were monitoring throughout for the province because they were giving us the resources to do it. And I have seen some interesting things over that period, so part of me hates to give it up, but it's hard to justify given the expense of coming out that often to do it. So putting together the proposal I'm doing now, we're looking at, we've been doing the Cadillac version for the last 15 years for the province, but we're doing a more toned down one this year. But there's absolutely a result. In fact, there were days in 2024 where I had to stop fishing because the water temperature was too high.
Well, I worked outside and we lost like 39 days in the summer due to rain.
Hmm.
There were not many rain days.
Oh, in 2023?
2024,
Well, 2024, okay.
good summer.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, put a proposal for Newfoundland. I assume that's where all the fish are going.
So what, you have all this data,
Mhm.
what action does it drive? What changes in what actions are done to help protect the species or?
Well, there's the whole salmon recovery process that's going on with the stocking that's being done, where they're taking the fish and growing, and what they're trying to do is increase the numbers. Where this contributes to that is the only way to get your hands on one of these fish is to actually have the trap there, be looking for them. The tag readers only pick up tagged fish, for example, so that wild return would not have shown up we have a tag reader on the pollet and on the lizard. That's the only way you can actually know what non-tagged fish are in the river is to have a presence in the river trying to actually attract and catch them. So that's the contribution it makes. In 2021, we got it like, we caught one the very first year that the channels opened at the bridge, and we're thinking, well, that's really quite exciting. We haven't seen one since then, so it was just lucky that year. But it does tell you that the numbers have risen to the point where it is at least possible to detect them. And so hopefully there would be more scope to see more in the future. But what it does is it gives you access to the fish.
Thank you very much, Evan. Is there any additional questions?
That's great.
Just for the folks around the table, Port Poly in this project's actually employed some individuals from Salisbury as well, which has been great for their careers. Thank you very much for that. And Port Poly also helped with some river erosion projects here in the community as well. So thank you very much for all you guys did.
What we would be looking for the proposal we're putting together would be mostly the letter of support, but also if you're able to contribute a little bit, that puts a little bit of strength behind it. So that's what we're asking for that, just to try and up our game in terms of trying to get funding for next year so we can do a bit more monitoring than we were able to do this year.
And when does your DFO proposal go in, Evan?
It goes in on December 12th.
Okay, I had been December, so, yeah. Okay. We're, actually, that's the date of our council meeting.
I imagine the tidal bore monitoring for erosion would be wonderful information for the P380 bridge.
Ours is the 8th, so you'll know, you'll definitely have a letter, and then you'll know on the grant request before the 12th for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Safe travel, by the way.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we're gonna move on to item 6.2, presentations from BGC Salisbury. And we have our own Jackie Hill system. Oh, you brought Amy. Oh, you brought, yeah. I thought you guys were gonna be stereo. We're gonna have up here. No? All right. Amy Lounsbury.
Hello, my name is Lounsbury. I am the executive director for BGC Salisbury as well as BGC. We are a fully non-for-profit organization. We are funded from grants. BGC Canada helps us out with fundraising, donations, various things, obviously fuel our business. But yeah, if you want to start with the slides, that would be great. Pardon my 40-plus-year-old eyes. So this is just some statistics, obviously, in regards to the diversity of children that we serve. Thank you, Phyllis, fantastic. So.
Have the same eyes.
Yeah. So our mission, vision, our values. So obviously, we are, geared from BGC Canada, but each club, certainly operates on their own. So we've obviously created, various opportunities for children and youth, all throughout, Canada and as well through, BGC, in the US as well. We have, like I said, right now, we have 39 staff between the two locations. For meals and snacks, so we're an organization and we still offer snacks each day for morning and for afternoon, as well as we include a well-balanced meal at lunchtime that's provided to all kids that obviously are in our care. Right now, so 237 children, youth, and families served. That is certainly, for an organization that is still fairly small, in smaller communities for us, that's certainly reaching a lot of families. And we certainly do that by being in the schools, attending or being part of community events, hosting and having various things at club. And just, various things like that. Next slide. Should be able to just.
So I thought,
So just swipe.
You want me to do Savannah for you?
Oh, no. So our early learning center, currently we have, 15 full-time and 5 part-time spaces. And for us, our early learning starts at the age of 2. So from 2 years of age until they reach basically school age. We have 45 spaces here in Salisbury for our after-school program. And we are a licensed facility as well. Obviously, we're governed by the province, all of the, rules and regulations that fall within that as well. On the next slide, we offer summer day camp, which is completely separate from our regular program that we do. We have themed weeks. Again, we provide healthy snacks and lunch. We are able to offer the kids to be able to take the kids to swimming lessons, which is fantastic. We also host and also partner with the Lions Club for BGC Kids Day. We host that every year on August the 15th in Highland Park. So it's various community members, it's, families, anybody can come and enjoy. And this past year we had Mr. Mark, who played some great music and some fun things for the kids, and he certainly enjoyed doing so. Next slide is our drop-in calendar. So drop-in is a separate program that we run above and beyond our regular daycare. So drop-in works in the fact of if you're aged 5 and up, you can come obviously to the age of 12. And it's various different things to do in the evening. So it runs from like 6:30 to 7:45. Yeah, 7:45. And it's a $25 fee for the entire year. And we have themed days, we have movie night, we do dance parties, we've done like cooking evenings for the kids, all kinds of different things. And obviously, if school's canceled, unfortunately, we can't host drop-in, but normally, any day that we're open, it is open from Monday to Thursday for the kids.
I just want to say that's incredible. Like for $25, like that's phenomenal.
Yeah,
That is a phenomenal added value to our community,
Yeah.
to our residents here to be able to participate in.
And I'll say it, kids don't have to come every day. They can come on various days. And because both clubs are united now, so we are, BGC Three Rivers Petticodiac and then BGC Three Rivers Salisbury. We're still Salisbury Boys and Girls Club. It was a legality anyways. But we, offering the drop-in program allows us to just, again, give back and allow the kids something that maybe they wouldn't typically be able to do otherwise, and they can use either site. So let's say they have a friend from this community and they want them to attend with them at the other club. Well, they're allowed to go back and forth, and whatever nights they want to come, they can come, and the nights they don't have to. So it's a really great program. It's really flexible for the kids. We also hosted, please. Our Learn On program. So Learn On was something that we started, I think it's been 2 years? This is our 3rd year doing it. So it's a program that allows kids who are actually older, so they're, I think we try to get them like 13 and up, to allow them to be part of something, whether they need social connection, whether they need some sort of just place to go to do something that maybe they, again, wouldn't normally do or wouldn't be part of. And right now, we are doing it in both schools. So Salisbury's already started. And I believe Petty Kodiak is scheduled to start in a couple of weeks. And I did just learn recently, today, that, that we have the potential to secure some more funding if we have other children who are either interested or wanting to be part of it. They sent a note out today stating that they had additional funding, so I was like, let's see what we can do and let's see what we can get to get the kids on board. And there's no requirements for Learn On either, you know, they just come, if they want to hang out, we feed them. Every single time we host it, we feed them, and a lot of nights we ask them what they want to have. You know, and we will support and offer them local dining, and, you know, whether it's pizza, Chinese, whatever they want, we order it, and it's part of them just being part of something. It's really great. We just hosted our, sorry, next slide, yes, great, sorry. We just hosted our autumn celebration, our dinner and dance. This is our second time hosting this. We hosted at the Petty Kodiak Golf and Country Club. It's a great night. A lot of, you know, local people supporting a great cause. And the grand prize was 2 tickets, anyone's WestJet flies. Plus there was door prizes, meal, all of that. So it's a really great thing. And it's certainly one of our bigger fundraisers. We were fortunate enough to get 2 sets of WestJet tickets this year. So we are going to be going with the gift of flight. So again, win 2 tickets. They're $20 each. And we're going to be drawing it on December 31st. You have an entire year to use the tickets. Yeah, it's a great fundraiser and it's a great partnership between BGC and WestJet. We had a Halloween dance here at the school. It was great. We didn't do it for, was it last year?
We did it last year.
Or was the year we missed? Yeah. Typically it's every year. Again, it's for the younger kids, giving the parents an opportunity to take them to something and be part of something, you know, the kids dressed up. They get a little treat bag, and it's really cute. I volunteered for that one, so it's entertaining. We also offer usually twice a year babysitting courses. So usually we alternate, one in the spring and one in the fall. This one here is actually, it's a little bit later than usual, but we're going to host a babysitting course on December the 6th. And obviously, if you know any children that are 11 and up, they can certainly register for it and get their babysitting course and not have to go anywhere else but here. The next slide. Christmas Troy and food drive. So again, in October, we did Socktober. Obviously, November, and obviously in through to December, we'll be definitely doing toys and such, and obviously food as well. And I don't know, did you put on there?
It might be.
Surprise.
Right? Yeah. We also do, every year, the last few years, we've been putting together some just essential boxes and supplies at Christmas time for families. We do it anonymously. Typically just put some things together. We have some names, obviously some people that we do know that are either families that are, you know, have their children with us, or other community members that we know that, you know, could maybe use an extra hand at Christmas. So we, again, do it anonymously. Last year we packed in, like, you name it, we packed it in there, like, you know, Cheese Whiz and bread, and I ordered burger from like DNA Meats and nachos and just essential things that maybe would not be, you know, available for some. So last year I think we put together 16 boxes between both locations. So it was a great thing to do. The next slide, we do our weekly toonie draw. So again, it's Gold Rush. It's $2 a week, it's 50-50. You play, you get drawn, you win. Everybody knows how that works. In some communities, I know where there's BGCs, it's a really big thing. Sometimes I know, like in smaller communities, because there is so many other toonie draws or, 50-50 draws, but still every week we have people that play and play regularly, so it's definitely been good. This just kind of shows some of the stuff that we do and some of the, we partake obviously in the Santa Claus parade at both for Salisbury and for Petitpodiac. Typically we have our volunteers that come, obviously, or people that, that we work with that volunteer and help out. The next slide is our kind of, I'm gonna say people that we've partnered with or people that we've actually done. NBCC has had their students come to us, either taking like early learning or personal services, things like that. Old College, same. Salisbury Regional School, we now have, I think it was today,
Today was the first day.
the first day, yeah, so, their early learning, reached out to us and we said, yes, definitely, we take some students, we're taking 5 students a day. That can come and hang out and see, what it's like to be part of, the early learning and all of that, that they're, potentially might be interested in. We also do student placements. But yeah, we've had great partnerships with a lot of organizations, so it's definitely been working in our favor and for them as well. The next slide. That's it. I love this. I love this. Does anybody have any questions? I guess I should ask, is anybody familiar with Boys and Girls Club?
I went to the Boys and Girls Club.
Oh,
Same.
I get lucky to pop in and get.
And, we love being community involved. I want to continue to do that. The more, the merrier, because for us, it's definitely the difference. You see in the kids and the families, you're definitely, it's nice to see like the impact, and it really shows when you see kids after they've grown up, or, they'll come back and say, oh, I remember my days at club, or, so, yeah, we definitely try to make it the best experience.
A lot of really great things.
I'm still impressed about the $25. Well, because I know it goes on in town, like, we've had it in Riverview and Mountain forever. And I just didn't know that it was being offered out here, and that is so fantastic.
Yeah.
The kids that are, not all kids are in sports, so it's a great opportunity for them to tap into some exposure to some fun things and some other things. That's fantastic.
We usually do like a refer, or like bring a friend night as well, and we'll do movie nights for them and tell them to bring a friend. And, so it's just giving them something that is potentially gonna be more than maybe what they're currently doing, so, and in a non-expensive.
All right, Amy and I were chatting this afternoon just about exactly what you said. They offer so many great programs and it's frustrating that people don't know about them. So that's why it was so important for you to come to council tonight, so that we can figure out ways to say that. I noticed just recently online again where somebody posted, there's nothing for kids to do in our community, and that just drives me crazy because our community actually has more, there's so much to do here where we have to.
Well, that November calendar was like, you see all the things.
And it's top-notch content. You're not gonna, like,
Yeah.
again, it's like taking something in the bigger cities that you get in a smaller town, so good, you guys,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
well done, for sure. Very good.
Oh, yes.
Anything else?
I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to move on to item 6.3, but I don't believe the president is here.
Correct, yeah.
So with that, I believe we can move into close right now.
We can't both present her here now.
Oh, we're here now? Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, with that, then we're okay then, so we'll move on to item 7.
Yeah, the
You gotta write down
It doesn't matter, you tell, it's up to you guys. Both agendas for closure here, so if we don't wanna make them wait to go through everything else.
Yeah.
So we can close.
We can go into close.
Do I have a recommendation to move into closed? A motion, okay. Moved by Councillor, or Deputy Mayor Blinas, and seconded by Councillor Thorne. Questions for the motion? Seeing no questions, all in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried. We're now moving into closed. Okay, may I have a motion to enter back into regular council, please? Moved by Councillor Thorne, seconded by Councillor Glant. Questions of the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Carried. All right, moving on to item 7.1 recommendations from committee of the whole from October 27th, 2025.
So as always, a brief background. So during the committee of the whole meeting of October 27th, 2025, council provided approval in principle of the formal agreement between the government of New Brunswick, specifically the Department of Natural Resources and the town of Salisbury with respect to designating portions of 2 town-owned properties as other effective conservation measures, OECM conserved lands, in partnership with the Fundy Biosphere region. This designation will conserve the lands in addition to being used for their primary functions, including recreation at Highland Park and as the wastewater treatment facility at the wastewater treatment facility. As part of federal and provincial targets for land conservation. The town will work with Fundy Biosphere region on management strategies to conserve these lands and will communicate the conservation designations to the public through future social media promotion and interpretive signage. So the agreement stitched together with the documents from last time is included, and there's a recommendation on the floor to permit the formal execution of the agreement.
I move that council authorize the clerk and mayor to sign and fix the corporate seal accordingly on the agreement between the government and the Brunswick Department of Natural Resources and the town of Salisbury for the purposes of conserving portions of town-owned land bearing PID 0093, 7870, PID 703, 65820, PID 00818, 708, PID 702, 152, 223, and PID 703, 41300. As outlined in the agreement and in the signing in signing the agreement, accept the terms of the restrictive covenants between the town of Salisbury and the Fundy Biosphere region on the OEM lands near the wastewater treatment facility.
Seconded.
Moved by Councillor Bannister, seconded by Councillor Coe. Questions to the motion? Seeing no questions, all in favor? Minded, motion carried. Moving on to item number 8, reports of administration. Item 8.1 petition regarding a request for reduced speed limit in Spring Garden subdivision.
So as a summary to what is in the package, the town received a petition from residents in the Spring Garden subdivision in Boundary Creek. A group of residents sought signatures within the neighborhood, mainly for concerns with respect to traffic, which are under provincial jurisdiction in the area in question. However, as a municipality recently put in a park in the area, we've been trying to work with DTI and as the kind of official recipient of the petition. So the redacted petition is included in the package, and the unredacted version is also sent to council for information. Our procedural bylaw outlines how we deal or treat with petitions, and we've treated all the ones that we've received as a town under this procedural bylaw the same way, including putting it on a council agenda like this. In most cases, it's been on the consent agenda because it's been dealing with an item that's been discussed in great detail as a planning matter. But for this one where it was not expected, quote unquote, we wanted it as a separate agenda item. We responded to the recipient with the response included in the package as required under the procedural bylaw, and we've circulated to council, again, unredacted this afternoon. So basically the outcome that was the formal answer is that the province can't and won't lower the speed limits, but they will post signs, not necessarily exactly as proposed, but the same principle of basically playground warning signs based on what's in their standard inventory. And then the town is working with them to improve the sightlines at the intersection. They will undertake the tree trimming, but they want the town's cooperation to work with the landowners to get permission before they go and do that, because it can often cause challenges otherwise. So that's basically the gist of it. We told the resident that we would keep them posted, the resident who brought forward the petition to us. We started those conversations before we actually received the petition. It was sent, an email was sent to the mayor saying there was a petition. And we started conversations with DTI then, they've been super responsive since, Charles had a few conversations with them, and, our crew is expecting to try to make contact with the landowners for the tree trimming this week, so.
Perfect.
I think this is really nice, even though we can't give them what they
Yeah.
want, like, we're doing everything we can.
Yes.
I think that's.
They know we're trying.
Would it be helpful to put the speed signs in there to get some metrics on what the speed
We-
actually are?
We did talk about that, yeah. And they're planning to go somewhere else, after where they are now. We're at kind of that 2 week mark. And so as long as weather permits, we can only keep them out for 2 weeks. DTI has already reminded us that we're getting close to that 2 weeks, in the location they're at now. So, we might be able to move them there if weather permits, but if not, we can move them again in the spring probably.
In the spring, forgive me because I can't remember anymore, but during the reconstruction and the detour that was going through Park and Larson, or I guess the detour wasn't, but the extra traffic. Was there, am I mistaken in saying that there was speed bumps in there?
Temporary, yeah.
Would that be a possibility in this situation to have temporary speed bumps?
We don't own the street.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Like, so we can't even put up a sign, that DTI's, like, the right of way on a municipal street is ours. The right of way in this is DTI, so even where a sign would go.
You're banging on the fence.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 8.2, grant request, baseball.
Did we vote on that one?
There was no vote.
Oh, right, there's no vote, that's right, sorry.
Grant request, baseball academy.
Perfect. So in October, not long before our last meeting, but too close to the agenda cutoff, the town received a grant request in the amount of $500. As council knows, anything over $250 requires approval from council. The request was for a private baseball academy for children throughout the winter months. It started as an initial request for space. We've connected them with the really only places in the community, of which is limited, obviously. But those who are starting it have been trying to look for space and funding to start for basically equipment purchases. At this point, we're recommending not approving a grant at this time, with the primary rationale being it's a private venture, the applicants are not residents of the town, and if participants in their programming do participate and are from the town, they will be eligible for funding from the town, such as programs through FAR. So with that, there's a recommendation on the floor, and then we can answer any questions.
I'll move that council not approve a grant for Michelle Hubley's Baseball Academy at this time.
Seconded.
Moved by Councilor Dykstra, second by Councilor Thorne, question?
We also have our local association runs programs all winter
Correct.
of the same.
Correct.
Some questions? See none? This is all in favor.
All in favor of the motion?
Of the
Yeah.
motion.
Oh,
Aye.
Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Second.
Moving on
I guess.
to, moving on to item 8.3, award of call 2025-29, general insurance and risk management services.
So as council knows, we went out to market in September, on September 2nd, for general municipal insurance and risk management services. So RFP Sols 2025-29. It closed on October 3rd. Through the RFP process, which I will say is arguably the most tedious that we have had to do in quite some time. It was painful, really, and very time consuming. We had a number of questions, a number of interested parties. There's only a certain number that can insure municipalities. So when one goes to market, there is generally significant interest. We had 4 proponents submit proposals, all of which were deemed to be compliant. We evaluated it on a point basis, so out of 100 points for a series of different criteria, so covering coverage and completeness of their submission, the experience, stability and references, services offered, and price. Ultimately, they were evaluated by a committee consisting of 4 municipal staff. We have a recommendation on the floor, and just want to speak to that recommendation a little bit. Ultimately, we are recommending switching providers from who we are with currently, who the municipality has been insured with in different variations of the provider for, over 25 years is the number. So, the primary rationale for that is not that we're dissatisfied with the provider, not in any way, shape or form, but ultimately our, annual premium was increasing close to the Procurement Act threshold. And knowing that we had additional, additions to our policy being fire hall, new park, municipal building changes, we wanted to make sure that we went to market. And the cost is the primary driver. So, had we removed those 30 points, from the equation, so it was out of 70 points and price was not there, then our current provider would have been the recommended vendor, slightly, but the price, was the primary factor, in the overall evaluation. We did reference checks on the recommended vendor, with no concerns raised. They insure nearby municipalities, larger municipalities, smaller municipalities, comparable sized municipalities, and ultimately also act as a broker. So there could be a time where we end up going back to our current insurer, with a different broker arrangement. Historically, there were decisions made to switch to the broker that we're with right now through our insurer because they had a local office. So, that is still technically the case. However, we work with people out of the Moncton office, the commercial branch. I think it's always been the case, even when the switch was made. A few other pieces that we want to highlight, obviously, comparing municipal insurance coverages is just as tedious as the RFP process itself. And so we invited our current provider, as well as the recommended provider this evening for what we would call like an interview, I guess, that we reserved the right to do during the RFP process. To ask them specific questions on their coverages and give them scenarios. So, mostly like we would use as one example, we gave a scenario of if there's a fire truck that's written off, that's this old, that costs this much to buy, this much to replace, what would the coverage, cover? So it looked at things like aggregate limits, if it was replacement or purchase price, all of these different scenarios that can differ from one policy to another. And ultimately there's pros and cons to each, but in the end, the coverage, we will actually see an improvement. If you look on page 4 of the CRF, you'll see our current coverage in terms of limits versus the proposed amount. And it's also related to a strat plan item that makes sure that we aren't underinsured. So we looked at all of our building values and property and asset values over the last couple of years. And increased it after municipal reform. In particular, liability, I think, was the main one that increased limits. But is still underinsured what municipalities of our size and with comparable exposure would have. I would say con of this coverage is that there is aggregate limits, which one of our selling features of our current providers, there's no aggregate limits. So that means that when you reach a ceiling for that type of claim or certain policies under your coverage, then they stop paying, but the coverage limits are so much higher that the likelihood of we would be in significant issues if we had that much in multiple claims throughout the course of 1 year. And then it goes to the financial considerations, which obviously are significant. And that was one of the main questions that we requested or asked of our current provider. Ultimately, it's insurance, and as council knows, there is some significant claims which we can't speak to in a public session that insurance companies look at. All companies had access to our loss audit and ratio and underwrote us accordingly. All of them grilled us with questions on particulars of our loss ratio. So everyone is aware. Some companies will have financial stakes in that they insured us at the time, and some do not. So it is priced accordingly, is essentially the outcome of that. And the only piece we want to cover other than that is given the fact that we have some pieces now that knowing we would get the question. So the coverage proposed from all providers we added the fire hall, Roxborough Court, and the changes to the municipal building. So when we gave out property schedules, we said, here's our current property schedule today, but please note them as if this building is added, as if this park is added, and as if these building changes are added. So with that, there is a recommendation on the floor, and then we can answer any questions that council may have.
I'll move that council award Arthur J. Gallagher for a one-year term as per RFP Sals 2025-29 with the option to renew for a total of 4 years for a contract value of $67,192 excluding HST and plus cyber coverage that shall be retained at a later date.
Second.
So moved by Deputy Mayor Oblinus, seconded by Councillor Bannister. Questions to the motion?
There's a number in, I think, meaning that we've issued 29 RFPs.
Yep.
That's a lot this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have one question, just merely out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Seeing how much more coverage we're gonna get from Gallagher, did the deductibles change much?
Yeah, they went down.
They did.
Yeah. So that was another question, like, and I don't know what we can speak to, like, of this, but yeah, they went down.
Wow.
Some of them are the same, some of them are the same.
Yeah.
Some of them, and ours increased only during reform.
Yeah.
It will match our pre-reform deductible.
Wow.
Great.
Additional questions? See no additional questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Minded, motion carried. Moving on to item 8.4, cyber insurance coverage.
So as per the motion, a later date is a couple of minutes later, for this agenda item. So, we are what we would call also underinsured from a cyber perspective. Right now, our coverage is basically through other endorsements like crime. So it will cover if Diane or I became hackers, and other scenarios, but it's undercovered in terms of what municipalities are exposed to, including municipalities in New Brunswick, including contractors that we work for, or that work for us, that have been exposed to risks like this, which can technically also expose us to risks. So, we did not include this as part of the RFP, where we do not have it right now, but asked the two providers that we did post-procurement interviews with, to offer what different cyber coverage they had. Ultimately, we're recommending proceeding based on the decision that council had in the last agenda item, we're recommending proceeding with adding cyber coverage. You'll see in the summary that there are 3 different options. The provider is recommending option 2, which is in the middle. If you look at page 3 of the package, in your package, you'll see that's the majority of public entities, what they have as coverage. So over $1 million, but under 2 million, which is $2 million in coverage, which is what that option 2 is. And ultimately, it's ensuring the municipality is covered in the event of what we are seeing become increasing risk for public sectors in general. So with that recommendation, and then can answer any questions that council may have.
I'll move that effective January 1st, 2026, and moving forward as part of the annual review process, the town of Salisbury carries cyber insurance coverage with a $2 million limit, with 2026 being through Arthur J. Gallagher as proposed by CFC Underwriting, with the annual premium in 2026 to be in the amount of $5,675 excluding HST.
Seconded.
Moved by Councillor Dykstra, seconded by Councillor Thorne. Questions to the motion?
I have a question. Like, what do we have any way of measuring what our impact would be if we lost access to all of our systems?
You mean like cost wise?
Yeah, like, is 2 million enough?
Yeah, I asked the same question, and the answer was that it triggers generally, like it would trigger other insurance coverages. It wouldn't just be like ransomware, like getting access back. Because I also have to be careful what I say in public, but a lot of times the solution to these is everything that you have becomes you're not using it anymore ever.
Yeah.
So there's other coverage that would kick in, I guess. Yeah.
And based on the quote that they gave, like they have 2 million for incident response, 2 million for cyber extortion. Like 2 million for all of them. Is it like 2 million for each of those? Each of those categories, or is the total coverage 2 million?
It would be, the limits would be each of those, so like cyber incident response would be 2 million, you would have 250,000 for cyber crime, an additional two, like those, cause they wouldn't all be there. I'll check and see if there's an aggregate limit for the whole policy, because that's not listed here, yeah.
So,
Just a question, because I'm not familiar enough with cyber crime. But if AI is used in the ransomware attack, like, is there outs in terms of any of the new AI tools that are coming out?
Do you mean, I don't know what? I'm also not familiar with cyber insurance, because we don't have it right now, so.
Found this is specifically like ransomware, cyber attacks, but is that only if it's done by a human, or is AI aspects of?
It's anything that we'll confirm, but the intent is that it's anything, because a lot of it would be AI, like a lot of times what how they're getting through in public sector, especially if they're cracking passwords, and it's using AI to.
Because to me, it's not worth 5 cents.
Yeah,
Have it, and I just renewed it yesterday. And it's essentially, anything's triggered by a person, it doesn't matter what. AI is using it, somebody's built the AI or somebody's triggered a question or whatever. But it's like exactly what Austin said, is like, you know, you've got I've lost system access, but then there's a whole bunch of, like, there's loss of assets if somebody goes and takes IP information or something, and then there's the loss of, you know, defamation of character, if somebody gets something that leaks, like, there's just a lot of
Different levels.
Yeah, so it's not gonna, that will never, it's like an 18-page document of varying things that just go to somewhere else.
So the result,
Because somebody got information and used it. So using the information and how they use it is,
so the tools don't matter, it's the result.
yeah.
And
like if they
it's the
steal your
result.
credit card number, then it's fraud. It's a whole different,
Right.
you know, like
that's
it's a
right.
different thing.
Which goes under crime policy,
You
exactly,
can
yeah.
get sued by residents because they steal personal and private information from us, which is what would happen, insurance to insurance.
Yeah.
Then it would cover that.
Are we obligated with this to show a certain amount of training for our staff?
They offer it, they offer it.
Are we obligated?
No, because we've been underwritten based on our current, processes in place, so,
We can just do it anyway.
correct, yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The even simple things like, two-factor authentication is a huge piece in a cyber, underwriting, so.
Ask that, are we set up
Yeah.
for that? Cause when I have the same insurer
Yeah.
at work and I just filled out the application and I don't have multi-factor on my VPN access. And that's like, they give me a hard date, like you have to have it
Yeah.
like here.
And so we've been underwritten as we are today, but very similar to any insurance and with our current provider, we'll go through, one of their strengths is in risk management, so we're gonna go through an exercise of looking at the municipality overall, that will be 100% a high risk and high likelihood
Yeah.
piece. They offer outside of this provider, cyber, training through their risk management services,
Yeah.
but this provider also does as well. So they've also offered, like, we could have had a conversation with them to even discuss this, but our perspective is we want to make sure we have this part of this package so we can get the endorsements all done and everything lined up, and it will be, like, it's not like a sign the documents and be done. There's gonna be pieces that are gonna come into play for sure.
the training is cool because we're going for it right now. And everyone takes the course.
Yeah,
And so they will test you.
yeah,
And if you slip up, then it continues to test you.
okay,
So like, yeah, it's actually, it's pretty neat. It really is. It's very impressive.
okay.
So it knows if you, but it's great because it's bringing awareness to
Yeah,
everybody that
yeah.
this is what they are trying to do out there.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention, and the questions in the quiz were very, very specific, like number specific. So I got them wrong, and then I had to do like 10. So just listen to it.
Yeah.
It's 20 minutes, just do it.
But they'll also send you fake emails and.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like
Our
phishing.
prior employer was a bit OCD with the cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Good to be with you.
Interestingly, yeah.
Yeah, if you failed a couple times, you're gonna lose your net active.
Okay, do you have additional questions? Gotta pay attention here.
With
I've
this,
seen it.
Additional questions?
Who moved that and seconded that, sorry?
Dykstra.
Sorry.
No additional questions, all in favor?
Uh,
Reminded, motion carried. Moving on to item number 8.5, ratification or ratified 2026 town budget.
At channel.
Glad you left this small item. so.
We were really good last.
I honestly, like, I read the whole thing, I feel like I'm fine. We can.
I want to do a few things on the record.
Oh, okay.
Only highlight things that we didn't get to talk about on the record yet, so. RCMP, so as council knows, we talked about it in several meetings, including committee of the whole in September and October, but there have been some changes just based on things we were waiting on. So RCMP numbers were confirmed, there's an increase of 2% instead of 4%, that's good news. We've received all numbers for fire cost sharing from the province. We took the remaining funds, so the difference between the 2%, the 4% projected and the 2% actual for RCMP. We added 3,000 to one item in recreation and wellness, Music Fest, and then put the remainder in general capital funds. You'll see in the 5-year plan that there is a, for next year, there's a miscellaneous capital spending. That's the difference. It will just be a buffer. It's not a lot. It's not gonna cover anything, but it was we wanted to prioritize allocating the remainder there, sorry. And then we've separated what was shown before in terms of, the municipal capital board wants to see their debenture for the fire hall in a certain location and the FCM one separately, because the FCM cash will not come until 2026, so it's technically still short-term financing. So it's a logistical or procedural thing that they wanted to see. But we do have some numbers from Service New Brunswick that I think are important to highlight. So this is including the numbers by the properties that are affected by spike protection mechanism and the property assessment freeze. So it's about 89% of our properties in the town that are benefiting from that, one or the other or both. So they don't have, or they don't give us the numbers split. But if today, for 2026, I guess, if I use January 1, if we were to receive the real and true assessment base for the town's tax base, we would have $1.59 million additional in our operating budget. Now, to be clear, that's not only the property assessment freeze. So part of that is spike protection. A number of our properties were already in that, but it does help substantiate some of our 5-year projections to show that ultimately we are being conservative in our longer term projections. In the end, our 2026 operating budget only has just over 20,000 more than our 2025 operating budget, so that doesn't eat increases in anything. So it drives home the reality that we've been saying since we started our budget exercises in the summer, and since we've been bringing it to council in late summer, early fall, that we've tried to do our very best to cut where possible. The main other piece that is important to note is that when we presented our budget at committee of the whole, so the draft budget, the LSD rate was essentially the average of all of them. And we had mentioned that our goal was to try to make the LSD rate the lowest of the 4. So the dollar value is minuscule, but it's the principle. So we did manage to do that. So ultimately, we're recommending maintaining the former village rate at 1.1599 per $100 of residential assessment, with the former LSDs being at 0.6335 for the local rate, not including the special provincial levy for the four former LSD subunits, which are now combined into one outside subunit for the town. Last but not least, this is my last thing, I promise, is I just want to note where some other municipalities are at. This is based on media coverage or what we've heard from others. But Sussex is increasing their rate by 2 cents. That's mainly due to their flood mitigation project. Shediac is maintaining their rates at 1.4334. Butternut Valley is decreasing their rate, I would say quite substantially, to 1.17. Quispamsis is keeping their rate at 1.2599. Grand Bay Westfield is increasing by 2.5 cents for the former incorporated area to 1.275 and 5 cents for their former LSDs. And neighbor municipalities in Riverview and Moncton are also maintaining their rate. So that's the summary of where others are at. For the operating budget, The utility budget, we're maintaining the rate at $400 per unit. The main piece that we included is, it was asked last time, so we included a screenshot of our carry forward for our surplus deficit, in this case deficit, carry forward. And what we do want to highlight is that we're undertaking an ongoing review of billed units. So there are some properties that are under billed based on our bylaw, which basically assigns numbers of units per different categories of usage. So there are some that are underbilled, so we'll be notifying them basically, and they'll have a chance to appeal that if they have information that proves that they don't meet that number. But we're doing that as well, but the budget reflects this year's billed numbers plus the new ones. So ultimately what that would mean is slightly more revenue. And then the capital budget, it's also on the next agenda item, but I think the motion is on this one, so I do want to speak to it really quickly, but we sent today a 5-year capital plan outlook, our 2026 overview, our proposed capital renewal funding investment plans. This is new, but that's the new provincial funding, a proposed revised CCBF investment plan, and then a 5-year outlook. The summaries of it is that River Road continues to absorb the majority of our operating capital next year. Still no answer from the feds in the active transportation fund. Our current operating capital for 2026 is just over 730,000. It will increase over the next 5 years, and it'll be just over 1 million annually thereafter as proposed. And if you look in our 5-year outlook, it showcases the amount that we anticipate seeing in assessment increases. So 10% we assume for 27, 8% the year following, and then 2.5% thereafter. So that again, if you remember the difference that we're seeing in our actual versus our assessment for taxation versus real and true is quite conservative. And the proposed changes to CCBF are mainly reflecting the change that we made this year to include McDonald Road and also to reflect some of the total pave rehabilitation recommendations. And on that, over the next 5 years, we're proposing to allocate 3.78 million towards street rehabilitation. It includes a street reconstruction allowance. And the total pave over 5 years recommended 3.4 million. So we had that conversation at Committee of the Whole last month, I think, where we dove through that a little bit. And then just from a long-term planning perspective, we're updating our asset management plan in 2026 to include 23, 24, and 25 projects. And as always, capital plans are subject to change. So we update it annually and oftentimes throughout the year. At times when funding becomes available and we have to shift gears, or when the province introduces policies like property assessment freezes that can overhaul our long-term planning. So knowing that we're going into an election year, more than likely this time next year, we'll have changes as the town introduces a new strat plan, has an updated asset management plan, but this is our revised proposal based on council priorities for the next 5 years. With that, there are three recommendations. Yes, they're each separate motions, but there are three in total, right? With capital plan included, right? Yeah, so 3 in total.
I'll start. I'll move that council of the local government of Salisbury resolve that the sum of $7,901,572 be the total operating budget for the local government, that the sum of $7,349,171.39 be the warrant of the local government for the ensuing year, and that the tax rates for the local government be $675.00 inside residential, $1 1.1599, $675.05 outside residential, 0.6335, $675.00 inside non-residential, $1 0.9718, 675.05 outside non-residential, 1.0770. That, and I also move that the council order and direct the levying by the local minister of the local government of a set amount on the real property liable to taxation under the Assessment Act within the local government of Salisbury.
Seconded.
It's moved by Councillor Dykstra, seconded by Councillor Glenn. Questions to the motion?
I just want to say great job.
Yes.
One thing that I liked in, a sentence that you had in your council package that you didn't like verbalize, was that because of the assessment freeze, our levels of service are not decreasing, but they're also not increasing. And we as a council probably would have voted for them to increase if we had more money, right? So I just think that that needs to be said again. I thought that was really nice. Like, we're not decreasing anything, but we can't increase it if we want to keep the tax rate the same.
We are maintaining level of service and, it will be a challenging year to do that, but we've managed
Right.
to get there. And then we're treating it as an anomaly, so hopefully that will still be the case.
All in, no questions, some more additional questions, all in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried. Move on to the second.
Move that council of the local government of Salisbury resolve that pursuant to section 117(4) of the Local Governments Act, the total budget for the wastewater utility for the ensuing year would consist of total revenues of $509,990 and total expenditures of $509,990 with an annual sewer rate of $400 per unit.
Moved by Councillor Bland, seconded by Councillor Bannister. Questions to the motion? No questions to the motion, all in favor? Minded, motion carried. Moving on to item 3.
I'll move that council approve the updated 5-year 2026 to 2031 capital plan as presented.
So moved by Deputy Mayor Williams, seconded by Councillor Dykstra. Questions to the motion? Seeing no questions to the motion, all in favor? Minded, motion carried. Moving on to item 8.6, approval of the 2026.
We did it together. Yeah,
That's right. Okay. Bylaw, sorry, 9.1, third reading revised.
So this is the third reading of the addition of a or a clause and a schedule that was done at our last council meeting, but I'll pass it over to Diane. But we have a motion on the floor to have third reading. This is originating from the Lions Club initial request, but will facilitate future changes to any no parking zones or no parking areas because it'll be done by way of one resolution instead of 3. Pending passing of council, then it will be consolidated and put on the website. After the notice was done at the last meeting and after the draft amendment has been posted, or since the draft amendment has also been posted on the town's website as well. So with that, we're permitted to do third reading by title only. After council passes the recommendations on the floor.
I'll move the council have third reading and enactment of bylaw number 15-1. A bylaw to amend bylaw number 15, a bylaw of the municipality of Salisbury relating to traffic. So moved.
So moved by Councillor Thorne, seconded by Councillor Dykstra. Questions to the motion?
I could just read one.
No questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Miss Diane, the clerk's office.
Okay, we'll read the full bylaw. Because it wasn't.
It's not. And
Bylaw number 51-1, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 15, did I just say 51? Yes, I did. Bylaw number 15-1, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 15, a bylaw of the municipality of Salisbury relating to traffic. Be it enacted by the council of the town of Salisbury as follows. The town of Salisbury bylaw relating to traffic in the municipality of Salisbury being bylaw number 15 enacted on April 14th, 2025. Is hereby amended by adding the following to section 6, no stopping, standing, or parking of a vehicle. Section 6A, IX, on any highway or portion of highway within the town of Salisbury designated as no parking zones, signed accordingly as shown in Schedule I of this bylaw. So this will be the third reading, passed, and as soon as it's signed, it will be enacted.
Should we have had that to say by title only?
no, that was the whole thing.
That was the whole thing.
That was, you read the whole thing, yeah.
All right. Moving on to item 9, bylaws 9.1, or sorry, closed document. We've already done. Mayor and councillor statement, sorry, it's been a long day. I have nothing, councillors?
No.
Moving on to notices of motion, we do have 12.1 resolution for public presentation of public hearing bid 01052695.
this is a long motion, but is to set the official dates for public presentation, public hearing for the proposed rezoning that was introduced at committee of the whole last month. So recommendation on the floor.
I'll move that whereas council is considering an application from Car Connection Canada Incorporated to amend bylaw number 16, the town of Salisbury municipal plan by changing the designation on the property known as PID 0105265 from rural to industrial on the future land use map. And whereas council has agreed to consider rezoning the aforementioned property from rural area to industrial. Be it resolved that the council of the town of Salisbury directs that the appropriate bylaws be prepared to amend the municipal plan and zoning bylaw as it pertains to the above noted changes, that the proposed bylaws be referred to the Southeast Planning Review and Adjustment Committee for their views by December 31st, 2025, that the notice of intention requirements of the Community Planning Act be fulfilled with respect to the proposed amendments, and sets the regular council meeting on December 8th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers at the municipal office, 56 Douglas Street, Salisbury, New Brunswick, as the date, time, and place for the public presentation of council's intent to amend the municipal plan, and sets the committee of the whole meeting on January 26, 2026 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers at the municipal office, 56 Douglas Street, Salisbury, New Brunswick, is the date, time, and place for the public hearing and consideration of objections to the proposed bylaws.
Second.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Blinas, seconded by Councillor Thorne. Questions to the motion? Questions to the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Reminded, motion carried. Can't imagine I'll get a motion on the next one. Enjoy.
Oh, so moved. Oh, dear.
Jared, seconded by, Deputy Mayor Blinas, seconded by Councillor Thorne, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Meeting adjourned.